What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the fifth album by rapper Bow Wow. Basically, this product is called The Price of Fame, and it came out in the late fall of 2006. The thing about this particular hit project here is just the fact that this came out on the heels in a relative sense of like his hit 2000 came out on the relative heels of Bow Wow's hit 2005 album Wanted, as far as those pitches can happen, which had three good singles on there. One was with like I think it was like Fresh as I'm Is, and then there was like a song he did with Sierra, Like You, or one of those type ones, and there was a song he did with Mario and Let Me Hold You. Some of those type pitches, pretty good, well productive type album within those pitches. As far as those fairs kind of having great summer bops and just kind of frolic as far as that particular fair kind of goes, just that dewy kind of balmy summer frolic just in the pitch behind it. And a lot of good vanilla bops. Nowadays, that album is a lot more vanilla just than the fair as far as that particular pitch kind of happens with it. This one's a little bit more Southern Fried, which I do appreciate quite a bit. And this album is going to get a classic score just within the pitch. It's very aspected. Now, Bow Wow in the past has said that he feels like his albums are kind of mid within those pitches. And so I don't really see that particular concept about it. I just look within the tone. Now, I think within the aspect behind it, the thing about getting to the third single is it's not, that's actually kind of an underappreciated type thing about it, is to get like not just three singles, but three charting singles within a pitch. Like both Let Me Hold You and Like You were two top five singles on the Billboard 100, which is pretty outstanding nowadays because not too many terrible folks get two just like that. And then also Fresh as I'm Is was like a top 20 or top 25 single somewhere within that fair. So Bow Wow did have a lot of big deals around that particular time, which does a lot better than things in recent times as far as those pitches can happen. I mean, you will get albums that will chart full blown on the charts, but not in terms of like actual singles that are released to radio and stuff. These were ones that were kind of getting airplay back in the day. So it's a good pitch behind that, just some good overall timing with that. And this particular album continues that trend. It actually has like four or even five singles off this particular product, and a lot of these were top 10, top 15. They may not have been as much of like a humongous, they may not have been as much like a humongous full-blown splash as the ones on the 2005 album, but they were pretty close. I mean, songs like Shoddy Like Mine, Out of My System, and I'm a Flirt were all songs that were pretty much within like the top 25 of like the Billboard 100. So it's just within the fair as far as those fairs going to happen. Just some good type timing. Kind of underappreciated. I didn't know about this album as much full bound back in the day just within the fair. I think it was kind of because of the fact that it didn't have an explicit content edition. I kind of felt like it seemed a little bit more not necessarily kid centric, but just I realized that Bow Wow was a product of something that he was making music when he was like 11, 12 pitches within that fair. So there were folks that probably fucked with them when they were like 8 and 12 that probably gravitated towards these particular products as well. So this is kind of a difficult, more kind of snafu of a transaction to get Bow Wow, where he's saying fuck this and fuck that and yeah, screw you and some of that type fare and pussy ass bitch, some of those type fares just from the pitch behind it. But it's just kind of, you just would look within the tone as far as those fares can happen. I mean, it's an excellent type fare, just being able to get towards it. I just look after this is like once again, I feel like this is a classic album here, just the impact behind it. Very underappreciated. Bow Wow in these particular times was still doing things. He was definitely a product of some good type moments on here. It's just kind of the concept that, I mean, yeah, it's the concept that Bow Wow is a product of like the ringtone rap kind of era, and he did have some good gems on here. Now, the Spotify edition does not necessarily have like the bonus song I'm a Flirt on here, which is another single off this project. So I was looking on Wikipedia, and it actually says there were four singles off this project, or at least three, and one that was supposed to be attempted as a fourth single, not counting I'm a Flirt as far as this pitch can have. So it has approximately five singles, and I will talk about these. I recommend every song off this album, so I should tell you the score that this product's going to get here. It's just within the pitch. So basically, I mean, it's radio ready. It's ready to go just in those fares. It's a real excellent aspect. It's perfect timing just within the pitch behind it. It's some good type fare that just, I look after it, like, it feels like Bow Wow was kind of from Florida or one of those type places. Atlanta, Florida, Miami, some of those type places, Tallahassee, some of those particular type fares just within the tone behind it. Just an excellent type fare to kind of get that particular. This feels like he kind of had a Southpaw type style off this particular product, similar to like Fat Joe with Me, Myself, and I, and Elephant in the Room, some of those type fares. It just really adapts towards it. And I want to say that I want to say that like Bow Wow is like from like Philadelphia or Ohio or like not New York, but just some relative East Coast, Pittsburgh, one of those type places. Not really as full blown sure, just in the pitch behind it. I just question what some of those type fares just in the aspect of what particularly kind of goes along there. But it's just the aspect this is a very stylish type product and has that particular twang about it that just has a lot of flares. It's just good aspect. Just adapts to what was going on around that time. This one is not as much summer frolic as Wanted. I do think that particular aspect had a little bit more just summer malaise and just vanilla kind of typical kind of hop and bop kind of lemonade and wife beater type malaise about that particular one, but this one just has a good dark sheen about it that just works with an aspect behind it. So we'll go ahead and talk about the singles here. Yeah, like I was saying, there were three singles, which is the least shot. There were three singles that was least shoddy like mine, out of my system, and I'm a flirt. But there were actually some extra singles that Wikipedia talks about here, saying that the third single is actually don't know about that, and the fourth single is going to be Four Corners, but both these singles did not necessarily have as much full bound chart appeal. At least 3 out of 5 of them charted pretty damn high within the pitch, but I will talk about them within the single format just because it's interesting that within the concept of the scene that this is probably Bow Wow's biggest album here, I think. Minus the fact that Wanted is the more commercial. That's the one I would probably start with if you're looking for like the more kind of at least like within like Wanted. Bow Wow is just ditching kind of the kid centric type stuff just in the pitch, just a little bit more ladies bound in Summer Fried, just in the aspect behind this more in like a minor kind of thug type aspect. It's not say minor in terms of quality, but this has like that says that rougher draw kind of summer package as far as what's pitch can have in terms of commercial and vanilla appeal. But this one has that Summer Fried typeness. It's kind of like it's kind of like an extra type version of the stuff that Lil Wayne and like Young Dro and some of those type folks were kind of on and back in 2006. I'd say some of those type folks, Young Jock in certain senses. But Shoddy Like Mine's a nice one on here. This says Chris Brown on here, which is pretty good pitch. Has a pretty good hook on here as well. It's like a typical kind of mid 2000s baller season kind of Bella's mingled kind of get here. There's some residential flair. I'd have to say about this one. It's like some good R&B push. So some of these type songs just feel like R&B songs within the pitch behind it. Probably within the aspect just paying attention to this, you might not pick up that these are Bow Wow songs. The thing about all three of these songs, they all are ladies bound within the pitch. Bow Wow was pretty good at doing these, just like when you think of folks like Fabulous, and when you think of folks like trying to think of some other folks that really kind of nail some of these ladies type songs, like I can't really think it's full bound, but just folks like Fabulous that are pretty known for like their ladies songs on every one of their albums. LL Cool J, some of those type folks that would just consistently get those ladies tunes and they would be chart appeals. Bow Wow's real good at particularly doing those, just like his 2005 album. And by baller season, I mean winter. It's just kind of the concept. There is like a light kind of baller tinge about this particular product, which is pretty dope, similar to like the J. Cole type vibes. I do think Bow Wow was probably hooping in some of the in between type moments of like the fare of this particular product. So it's just some good type tone and kind of get some of that gym bound type stuff. If you do play like the occasional game at the gym or some pitches like that, just being able to say some of those extra type fares that is baller living as far as those pitches can have. It's not every single rap. I mean, you get that within a certain sense, but this is just a little bit one with a little bit more designation towards that. I'd have to say this has some residential flair about it. Just kind of the concept of just like a house party type occasion. Not so much like smoking crazy hard liquor everywhere, but just kind of the concept where there's going to be bells just in a more kind of natural kind of shindig where it's just not as much full blown carnivorous, I'd say. But it's some nice R&B push about this one. Nice bells mingle. Baller season just between October about March, some of those type fairs, just the cooler brushy type months as far as those pitch can have a good type tone. Out of My System with T-Pain and Jonta Austin. And the thing about these particular songs is both they're this Jonta Austin particular folk is also on Shoddy Like Mine as far as those fairs can happen. So it's some good type tones for that. Works pretty well. Out of My System has a T-Pain hook on here without the auto tune, so it's a good type pitch. Kind of get this particular one. Just actually, it wasn't as super common for folks to get hooks from T-Pain that didn't have the auto tune on there. Don't remember this song from back in the day, but I probably should have fucked with this song. Once again, I think the main reason why I didn't fuck with this back in those days is because it didn't have an explicit content label on there. It was just in the pitches, as far as saying that like this is like some blurry kind of quick times R&B flavored push to kind of get within that tone behind it. Just really feeling stirred and kind of faded rumination as far as those pairs can happen. So just the bell that's kind of got you hung up as far as those pitches kind of happen just within the tone of just kind of being dismantled, just kind of within the aspect behind it. Good type one kind of get here. It's like some real good quick times to kind of get within that fair as far as those pitches kind of happen with it. Just really like the aspect of like this is actually kind of a factory R&B type song. This is one of those type ones that you would get from like someone like Sean Kingston or Chris Brown, one of those type folks that just would kind of have the fair of just like don't have like a ton of extra time just within those pitches. Got to kind of move quickly, just not pretty much within the tone of just being able to sit down for a few and smoke a L, something like that, just in the tone. But it's just within the pitch as far as saying like, yeah, either whether it's busyness or just caught up in like the bustle of this like standard day to day as far as this pitch kind of happen. But it's just kind of the aspect of just being hung up. This particular song is just different because it's just hung up more on like the chica that's kind of got you ruffled as far as this pitch can happen with it, just within the fair behind it. But it works towards that particular atmosphere, just a good type tone for that. Good type. These are some winter brushy type ones kind of get here. Then Don't Know About That's a real nice one. So I like this particular one. That I was not aware of this being the third single, but apparently maybe in some cases it might have been. I don't know if it has like a music video for it, some of that type there, but this is produced by Nitty, who was red hot back in 2006 between producing for Young Jock and some of those type folks. I think there were some other ones in there. Don't remember his full bound, but he did do some pretty hot beats in 2006. So don't know about that. It's like an in between kind of hop and bop with like a dope southern twang about this particular one. This feels like a typical Nitty beat that just is pretty fiery. And I'd say it's like a ringtone bop vibe about this particular song. It's an overall hot one. So this one just has some good flair about it, just within the tone. It's a good aspect. Basically, just like getting a song that Young Jock would typically do, but just having like Bow Wow on there instead. Just have to say some good type pitches for that. So some of these type ones, I do like the aspect that there's some in between type moments on here. Bow Wow's pretty good at particularly doing some of these ones that are not necessarily like house party type crazes and set off of just getting like crunk and just full blown doing keg stands and pitches like that, playing beer pong, some of that type of standard craziness. But this kind of concept, this kind of extra saunter, kind of in like neighborhood type fare, whether it's winter, baller season type fare, or just the aspect of just some cooler type days, or just the tone of this kind of extra time. It's just an there's some ones on here like Don't Know About That's kind of like that. On Fire is kind of like that. Tell Me is kind of like that. How You Move It's kind of like that. There's just some ones on here. I'd say Give It to You is kind of like that. So just about half the album kind of has some of these type of pitches where they don't feel like full bound. Some of these songs particularly have that. I'd say approximately half the album has that particular type fare where it doesn't feel like necessarily full bound kind of tear the club up kind of house party smashes, but this is within the tone that it just has some percolate type music, just kind of in between. Definitely grab supplies, get like get like liquor, get like beer, get like lighter, some of that type fare. Just pick up like goodies, Chex Mix, burritos, some of that type of just within the tone behind it. But then also like the aspect of just kind of having like the tone of just like this, not these songs are not necessarily the tone of just sitting around at the house, but just kind of extra flavor, just questioning just the time of just not being bored, but also just kind of having like some extra time just in the pitch behind. So some good type tones. We'll get to some of these as you'll start to see what I'm talking about here. But yeah, basically the fourth pseudo single was kind of Four Corners. This is the only almost song. So when I said out of the 13 songs on this project, I recommend all 13. Four Corners like the only real one that was kind of somewhat on the fence about. This album is still going to get a 10 out of 10, but this is really like a star-studded one. It's definitely probably one within a relative sense you would think would be one of the most immediate ones on here, considering it has Lil Scrappy, Lil Wayne, Pimp C, Short Dog on here, some of those type of folks just within the tone. Real nice ones. Pretty interesting that Short Dog was around these particular times, just considering the fact that he was always like a Lil Wayne affiliate. I did not realize that he went as far back as 2006, popping up on albums. I remember him being on the Young Money album, and he was on like some Brick Squad Monopoly members mixtapes like YG Hootie, some of those type fairs. But it's just kind of, he's been around some of these type tangents. Just interesting kind of see Short Dog kind of being around some of these particular type fairs as far as those pitch kind of happen. But I look after it. Four Corners, it's an almost song. Four Corners is an almost song just because the production on here is just not as heavy hitting considering the fare of what the bravado of the song is kind of doing. This is like a loud pack kind of pounding bravado tune to kind of get here, just a rowdier kind of flex music. I would definitely feel like great posse cut, but kind of a dicey beat. So it's just within the tone. I mean, this has like a lot of emphasis about it. Like Lil Wayne shreds this song. A lot of these folks kind of do on here. A pretty trendy type song kind of get. Feels like a star-studded type of appeal, but it's just the delivery of this particular, the way that the kind of poundiness kind of happens. I mean, it works for like a real good flex type song, but it's just the aspect that's a little bit clumsier within the execution of it as far as that fare kind of happens. Just kind of look after it. I feel like it just needed maybe something a little bit. I mean, it feels like kind of like a more haphazard version of a song by Lil Wayne out of like his 2005, 2006 era, something like Money on Your Mind or Money on My Mind or like Stuntin' Like My Daddy. This is not quite as much composition about it. And that's why I was kind of saying, not to say like this is a worse version of that. This is the, not to say that Bow Wow is like a worse variation of Lil Wayne, but it's just kind of concept that some of these type fares just feel like Lil Wayne leftovers within a relative type sense. This kind of feels like a C list kind of production or like a B minus list, something within that relative type tone. Not necessarily bad, it's just within the aspect that it just it feels kind of like something that the runners would have kind of done like a more kind of factory type version, something like that. Something that feels like Hustlin' by Rick Ross or like just something ripped out of 2006, one of those typical ringtone rap type bops. I mean, I like the southern friedness about it, but just a little bit more vanilla in the fare of doing it. Just kind of feels like, also feels like Talking Out the Side of Your Neck by Dem Franchise Boys. Some of those type pitches, just within the tone, just kind of a plotting type one more so than like, but it works for what it is. I mean, definitely when you listen to the rappers on here, when you're paying attention to this stuff, this is a trendy type song. Just the pitch behind it, Lil Scrappy, Pimp C, Short Dog, Lil Wayne in their prime as far as those pitches can happen. This works within the appeal, but Just is somewhat cumbersome. That's the fourth single. And then the fifth single, which is actually the third official single, the one that charted. There were three singles, the three main ones, Shawty Like Mine, Out of My System, I'm a Flirt, the main ones that charted. And like I said, these are all top 25 singles, but I'm a Flirt is not on the Spotify edition, like I was saying, for some strange reason, but it is a bonus song. I think if you buy the CD or buy it digitally, it's probably on there. But I'm a Flirt has R. Kelly. This was later an R. Kelly song that was on one of his albums where he just took off Bow Wow and added like some folks on there or something. I don't remember his full bound, but real nice bop to kind of get this one. It's like a glissy and rich kind of banquet like social push kind of get about this particular one here. Is some winter occasion, kind of more indoor schmooze kind of have within the aspect behind it. So this one's a little bit more blue blood just in the pitch behind it. Just something there's going to be like punch bowls and appetizers, hors d'oeuvres, some of that type fare, just in a more relative sense. And when I say rich banquet like, I just think within the appeal, like if you're continuing that baller season type trend where there'd be like luncheons or just things like that, some of those type fairs, just the aspect of just going to some of those type ones and just mingling with like mingling with like cheerleader Bellas, some of those type fairs, just delays that would be around within that relative type push behind it, just the aspect of this kind of more great, just the aspect of more graceful kind of fraternizing as far as this pitch can have with a good type tone. So all three of these songs really have like a brushy type push about them, just to be able to say these are not really in your face kind of frenetic kind of shake your ass and dance club type crazes or just like what's your name shoddy, something like that. It's just kind of the tone of these all have like some more kind of just cooler out, just kind of, you know, ho hum kind of like, I don't want to say pedantic, but just kind of lackadaisical kind of in like a wintry season, just kind of, you know, almost like simp music, but not quite as much like, you know, punkish about it. It's just kind of within the tone. This is basically like this kind of ambient kind of simp type music, just within the tone behind this standard kind of schmooze type music, just within the tone. It's just within the pitch behind it. So some good type fairs as far as those fairs going to happen. And all these kind of have Winter Brush, the three main singles, like I was saying. But so yeah, I recommend every song on this album. So we'll just get towards it here. So basically, Price of Fame, the title track's a real nice one. It's like a slag kind of southern smoke cruise around to kind of get here. Great smokage in your system and good vehicle slap to kind of get about this particular fair. So this feels like something that like UGK, Paul Wall, Slim Thug, some of those type folks would kind of do within those pitches. There's excellent type smokage just to really get within that tone. Now Bow Wow does not as full bound go out of his way to make these smokish type songs. I do think he probably got stoned and faded within certain senses, but it's just kind of within the tone as far as saying just in the aspect that you do at least get some of that type fare for some of these cruise runs, just within the aspect of some of that type. Just turn up within the pitch. It's definitely some great vehicle, not great. Probably one of the best ones for some of that stunt type fare within it. Tell Me is a nice one. It's like a social kind of ball court and populated places kind of rumination, kind of get within that tone. Just whether you're at the gym or just like a ball court, some of those type places, just somewhere within the fair as far as just like there's going to be plenty of people just in the aspect, this kind of commotion where you can't really ruminate and just kind of be pissed off, just kind of more aggravated, but just within the tone of just kind of being out and about and kind of that tone of just like some slog malaise, like some slog malaise, like a chica on your mind as far as that fair kind of happens just within the tone. Goes pretty well with like I would say Out of My System. I'd have to say that same sort of afternoon or evening within the fair behind it, just within the pitch. It just someone that's really got you hung up just in the pitch, just kind of pissed off or just whatever, just kind of disjointed as far as those pitches kind of happen. But it's just kind of the concept that this is one or maybe you're just if you're playing basketball, this kind of a game where you're not playing as well today because you just got stuff on your mind as far as those fairs kind of happen just in the aspect behind it. Just kind of more populated places, just places like that. It could also just be going out for lunch with your pals, some of that type fair, just in the pitch, just preoccupied as far as those fairs can happen, just good type tone. And then How You Move It's a nice one. It's like a nice vanilla evening kind of residential Bella's kickback. I would feel like here, just good type tone for that. It's like some typical kind of after moment slide kind of get within that tone. It's one of those type ones I was talking about with some extra time as far as those fairs going to happen. Just kind of the aspect is really kind of factored just within the tone behind it. Just typical kind of not necessarily work a day, but just kind of within the pitch of just having like that standard extra time. I feel like some of these kind of have that makeshift appeal, but it's just kind of within the aspect. It's not really like this album does not feel as full bound meant for like the 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock p.m. work push as far as those pitches kind of happen, but just the aspect of this, like the after moments, of like okay, I'm done. Got to figure out what I'm going to do to situate type music and just kind of figure out as far as like the kickback, what's going to happen just in the tone. But a lot of this does have, I do like the lady centricness about this particular product. It's just within the aspect that this project is more ladies oriented, more so than drugs oriented, just within the pitch. I mean, it doesn't come like, I want to say at least Wanted somewhat came from like a hustler's kind of angle, but this is more of like a baller and kind of like Mac type aspect, more so than like the tone of just something that you would get from like more hustle and kind of drug oriented type stuff. So this is more kind of like I would say this is more like J. Cole more so than Jeezy, just an aspect behind it, but still some good type tones kind of get within that pitch. So it's just a good tone for that particular pair, but it works for what it is. the type aspect, just some excellent type fare. On Fire is a nice one. It's like a snazzy kind of residential in between. I'd have to say in between primer. I would definitely feel like here. Just primp, get some gas. This would be a good song to primp, get some gas in your vehicle. Simple tune ups, just pitches like that. I'd have to say grab supplies, and it's just an overall lit song. So On Fire is like another particular kind of vanilla, kind of extra time type tune to kind of get within those pitches. Just feels like some good, more the southern flavor, just an aspect that really works extremely well. Just the pitch behind it just has that particular ambient type aspect as far as those fairs can have. Just extra time, just good amount of just shoot the moon and kind of just dick around, just sort of pizzazz as far as those fairs are going to have them with a good type tone. Give It to You is like a nice one. It's like a nice neighborhood stroll around with Bella's on the mind as far as pitches like that kind of happen. Just smoke one, kind of primp, step out some of those type fairs as far as those pitch kind of happen. This one just kind of feels like one that just feels a little bit more just like with pep in your steps as far as those pitch kind of happen. Just really like, hey, gonna have some fun tonight as far as this pitch can happen. This is kind of like almost like a primer, but not necessarily like a cruise run as much as just like some good. It's kind of neighborhood stroll type fare just in the pitch behind it. It's another one to kind of get some smokage in your system, kind of similar to like Price of Fame, the title tracks. It's just some extra type fare. Maybe pick up like some goodies at a gas station along the way. Get like a pack of smokes, or maybe get like some swishers or backwoods, some of that type fare just in the pitch behind it. It's some extra type time kind of have within those pitches. Real good. Like this is real good supplies type out just in the pitch. If you're really just going out and about, just getting things like, you know, 6-pack of Pepsi, getting some bags of Chex Mix, some of those type fares, getting like lighters, some of that good type stuff. Just the aspect of this errand running, some of that type pitch. It's not so much errands in terms of like bill paying, like, oh, I got, you know, 4 more days get that cell phone bill kind of pay, but just within the aspect of just kind of just like those extra times of just kind of in between kind of sauntering as far as those pitch kind of just good type tones. This really works for that. Really like the kind of this calm you to this particular project. And that's I think I talked about every song on here. I think, well, maybe I didn't talk about Bet That. I think Bet That is a nice one. Bet That is like an evening primer and kind of hot ticket excitement to kind of get here. This has a good amount of dance jive about it, and this song makes it rumble pretty good. Yeah, so Bet That's just some good excitement for what's particularly kind of going on. Just a brewing type one to kind of get within those pitches. Definitely something that kind of gets things set off within a relative amount. Just kind of the moments of maybe like 15, 25 minutes before things are starting to pop off. Just some good type primers. Just smoke a little bit, maybe grab like a drink or two, some that type fare, just figure out what's going to happen. It's kind of extra type aspects. I mean, this is another extra time type one I'd have to say within the pitch, but this is kind of one that just is kind of gives you goosebumps within a relative excitement, just knowing that things are going to have some good times. It's a little hot ticket of a song here. And Damn Thing's a pretty nice one. Now, amongst like the dance club, as far as those fairs going to happen, I will say about this particular product, I did notice that it doesn't have as much full bound kind of like full. This particular product doesn't have as much full bound kind of crazes off this particular fair. I think I'm a Flirt is definitely some ones, but it's not really like a dance sort of craze. It's a little bit more of a schmooze type song. And like Shoddy Like Mine's kind of the same sort of pitch, just kind of a wintry, just kind of more calmed down, maybe like a 5 or 6 in energy as far as those fairs can happen. So it's really not just like I was saying, shake your ass, twerk like crazy songs like Laffy Taffy and Rubber Band Banks and Shoulder Lane, some of those type of ones. So it's just kind of within the pitch, and just as far as saying the damn thing is probably the closest thing to like a standard kind of percolate, kind of hop and bop here, or at least pop off. I'd say damn thing. This has the Brad on here, who wasn't popping up too often, like in the mid late 2000s, but damn thing's like a basic kind of house party set off. I'd have to say just some dance noise, percolate type music. I'd have to say just dap and social gel. I'd have to say about this particular song, pretty typical. It's like a dap and social gel type song kind of get here, and it's like a pretty typical type one to kind of get within those aspects as far as those fairs kind of happen with this. It's just good type one and get within the fair behind it. It's like a southern fried type one, like a vanilla type sense. If you get like typical tunes by like Bun B or Paul Wall, some of those type folks, Lil Wayne within relative senses in a more house party type of feel. It's just kind of the aspect of having like some set off that just kind of gets things going within a pitch, but it's just not like it's actually surprising. Like I guess this might be where it comes from when Bow said that like he thinks that some of his projects are kind of mid. It's just within the tone that in terms of like the song like Usher's Yeah or 50 Cent's Disco Inferno, some of those type ones that are like the crazy kind of ones where you're going to be getting, you know, these women are going to be twerking like crazy, just full blown kind of festive, ferocious kind of tornado like energy within the tones. This kind of aspect, it just kind of gets things going within the pitch. But like I said, the ambience of this particular product, the appeal behind it is just the supply getting and just the aspect of just kind of like these in between type moments and extra time just within the tone as far as saying that you just get some fairs just kind of stack up and just kind of more mingle. It just has a little bit more chattiness kind of in mind. It's not so much about the full blown craze of just, you know, popping off like all the new dance moves, pitches like that, but this kind of ones where you're just gonna stack up like some get some lighters, get some good goodies, some of that type fare, just some cruise arounds within a relative type sense, some good socials, kind of aspect of getting situated, some of those type fares. It's kind of like the ligaments more so things, more so than the actual kind of connect to dislike the tone or dislike the feralness. So it just kind of focuses on more like the in between type moments. So it's just within the pitch behind it. Look after the tone. A lot of good wintry, kind of brushy, kind of flirt type moments just within the pitch behind it. The singles kind of denote that, and it's just some good type fares for some of that extra time. So it's just within the pitch. Just approaches things from a different angle, just like the aspect behind it. Doesn't really need like the nightclub smash for those pitch happen. Just has some good type fares. Just good kind of extra time and thoughts just to be able to have some for some of that. So that's the tone. Recommend every song on here. So or 12 and a half out of 13, so it's a 10 out of 10. The social score I'll probably give. Now, the unfortunate thing about it is just me questioning how the social fare would kind of happen just with like the tone. I mean, it does have the singles on here a lot, 3 top 25 singles, which is pretty damn good. So then the tone behind it has enough popularity within the pitch, but in terms of like something that's just like a crazy type factor that's just like electric and kind of mammothly infectious, I'd say probably I will give this album social score like a 9.5 out of 10 because it has the bops on here, has the guests on here, has the pizzazz and packaging. It's just kind of the tone that the energy is just not feral. So if you're looking for something with like that excitement factor, that'd be like the only real reason why this product would not level up to like the score behind it. But other than that, it has this stuff in spades. So that's just kind of the tone. In terms of the future, like Bow Wow has dropped like a series of mixtapes between like the late 2000s and early 2010s, but he has not dropped an album since 2009. I'm going to get to some more of these as far as those fairs going to happen, but it's definitely a pretty packaged type one. This real impressive kind of classic here to kind of get within those pitches. Just really knocks out the appeal and just does a lot of things correctly as far as those pitches can happen. Just has a lot of good pizzazz about it.